Hey, what's up guys, it's Mike with Alpha Reptile, back with another video today. Today we are doing a build for my girlfriend's leopard gecko. We're obviously going to be using the Stone Desert Substrate by Exo Terra. This is a brand new product Exo Terra has brought out. My lovely assistant and I, Breeze Exotics on Instagram, go check her out, she's cringing behind the camera right now, are going to be setting this up for you guys today. Conveniently, we're going to be showing you how to use it because they forgot to put instructions on the bag. Whoops! Fear not, we're here to show you how to use this stuff, and we're hopefully going to make a pretty awesome tank for her leopard gecko today. Something awesome for you guys is that we are going to be giving away a 22-pound or a 10-kilogram bag of whatever color of your choosing. What's nice about this stuff is that there are 3 different colors. We're going to be getting into that later on in the video though, so I want to thank Exo Terra for sending me this, as well as allowing me to have this opportunity to show it off to you guys, relatively fresh onto the market. If you guys are new to the channel and you have never watched one of my videos, or you don't follow me on Instagram for whatever reason, make sure you follow me on Instagram, links on the screen somewhere, as well as in the description down below. While you're down there, there's also links to all my other social media, Twitter, Facebook, etc. And if you want to support the channel, I also have a merch store down below, so you guys can get some merch. In the comments down below, make sure you let me know if you guys have any merch suggestions. But with that being said, let's get into this build. For the decor going in this tank, we obviously have the base Stone Desert. That's going to be kind of the whole background area. We have slate rocks. We have an assortment of cholla wood, as well as some of the Exo Terra driftwood. Back there, Bree had a old hide that we're gonna probably reuse in this build. As a hot hide, you can see a heat mat. The heat mat will be used with a thermostat as well. The background is just made up of universal rock, some cuttings left over of the timber from the Reptarium. If you guys know what that is, then you know what that is, and a rock that my girlfriend had sitting in her reptile closet. We silicone that back rock to the back so it doesn't move, and we're going to be hiding the seam job with some of the Exo Terra. So for the substrate, we are going to be using the Earth Mix Arid from Arcadia. If you guys haven't used this stuff, it is perfect for your leopard geckos, bearded dragons. I suppose you could probably use it with Uromastyx as well. I've never tried it, but I'm sure you could. This stuff is absolutely incredible, and that's what we're going to be using for the substrate. So now that we have all the ingredients for our beautiful recipe, let's make it a beautiful tank. The first step in building your tank is going to be setting up the background. Now, obviously, you saw that we had the universal rock in the background already, but we're going to be accenting it with the Stone Desert here from Exo Terra. This one specifically is the Sonoran Ochre. There are also 2 other kinds. We have the Baharia Black, which you can see is kind of more of like a charcoal color, even though it's a famous white desert in Egypt. And finally, we have the Outback Red. It's based on the Australian outback, or a little bit closer to home, the Grand Canyon. Pro tip before we get into it is you're going to need a lot of latex. You need to practice safe mixing. By that, I mean, you know, latex gloves. I got the 4-pack here because everywhere right now, and this is all we could find in store. And finally, balloons. Now this might seem a little bit crazy. Balloons are going to make it way easier to set up caves and tunnels in your tank because you have a support for the clay to go around. You definitely don't need these. You could really use anything, cans, water bottles, something like that, in order to provide some rigidity to the shape that you're making, just until the Stone Desert dries, and then you'll be good to go from there. The other 3 things you're gonna need is obviously your clay-based substrate, water. You want lukewarm water. It just makes the mixing process a little easier, and a mixing tub. Here we have a convenient, soon-to-be cricket pen, but you can use whatever you want. A bucket can be challenging just due to limited reach, but any wide mouth bin or tub. All right, now it's time to add the substrate. All right, so we got about like 20 pounds, 25 pounds in here right now. I don't know how much exactly we're going to use, but remember kids, always practice safe mixing. We are going to be using some lukewarm water as well as the substrate itself, obviously.
Please mix water with water.
For mixing this, it's not an exact science because there are no instructions on the bag. I'm using roughly 2 parts of the media to 1 part lukewarm water, and then we're going to be mixing it to a consistency that you'll see when we're done. One of the really nice parts I enjoy about this substrate compared to the alternatives on the market, the other clay-based substrates, if you know what I mean. It smells really natural and it doesn't really smell at all. My girlfriend has a really sensitive nose and she came over here, took a giant whiff out of it and was pleased. So I feel like that's something worth mentioning for those of you that have used the other product on the market. This is like playing in the mud and it's so much fun.
Sand pit time.
A couple tips that I learned while mixing this: you might want to mix it in smaller quantities, especially if you're a little bit younger or if you're just a little bit weaker in general, because this is literally hefting around like 35 pounds plus the sticky factor of it, which adds who knows how much, but it is very dense and very clay-like. Obviously, I mean, I know that's what it's designed to be like, but I didn't really expect it to turn into this based off the powder that you guys saw when I first poured it in this tub. This is the consistency that I went for. You could probably go for a little bit drier. This is going to take probably a bit longer to dry, but you know what? I think this is going to lead to a really nice aesthetic. We might just try and sprinkle some dry stuff on top of it so it gives it more of a textured dry look rather than a smooth kind of finished. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't even know if that's going to be the case, but I think it's time to start getting stuff in this tank.
So first I'm going to fill in all the cracks along the sides and along the bottom just to make sure, like, I'm going to be obviously feeding crickets since this is for my leopard gecko. Just want to make sure no insects of any kind get behind. So I've worked with another clay substrate before, twice, 2 different versions with my old leopard gecko tank in this same exact tank before, and twice I've had to tear it down. What I like about this substrate versus the other one is this one is actually more like a clay, whereas the other one was more like a sand with more just, you add water to sand. This one's actually moldable. Like, you can mold it a little tiny bit, goes an extremely long way. Normally where I'd have to use a ton of it to fill like a small crack like this one, I can use just this tiny little ball here and I can cover a long distance, and it's really easy to mold it to do that. Whereas I'm not like struggling to get it to stay. I don't have to flip the tank multiple different ways to get it to stay like that.
That's where it left off in the seaming, I suppose. We just coated all the top, both sides, around the rock in the middle, and then the bottom. That's just to seal it off, like Bree said, from any crickets or anything like that. And now it's time to let this tank take some shape.
This is just a hide I got from PetSmart a while ago. I kind of like the shape of it, so I'm just kind of like using the clay and just covering it up. Taking all the seams where the crickets and stuff could get behind and just doing the same thing I did for the sides. I'm gonna leave a little bit of it exposed because I kind of like the look of this hide. This clay is the easiest to work with when it's wet. If you leave this to dry, which I find this one dries quite quickly, it sticks to literally everything. I find it's incredibly hard to work with.
Alright, so this is where we're leaving off for night 1. Silicone spatulas, my girlfriend had a couple lying around, and they work incredibly I basically just continued the carving pattern from the hide all the way up the background. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys think differently, but I'm pretty sure that looks like basically one hide going all the way up the background there. That's pretty awesome. This is the end of night 1. Tomorrow we will start up and finish this bad boy off. Alrighty, as you guys can see, we have started construction on build day 2. Some of it has dried already. I think it looks awesome. It cracked a little bit. Even though it cracked, it's still holding on to the background really well. So we're just gonna continue building around it and make the desired look. We inserted a new hide into the tank. That's one of the leopard gecko's old hides, so I'm not saying that you need anything like sentimental or something that they've used in their new tanks, but it's a great hide and I think it'll work perfectly for its use. Bree's actually going to be taking over the rest of the build, or some of the build. She's going to go through exactly what she's doing and her thought process behind it. We do have some live plants that we're going to be factoring in some potting areas for, and we are using, like I mentioned in the beginning, the Arcadia Earth Mix Arid, so the live plants should do perfectly well. I'm not gonna blabble on anymore, let's get into this. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually breaking up an old Exo Terra background and using it as spacers essentially, just so A, the tank is going to be a lot lighter because we're not using quite as much of the media. Still very stable and won't crush under the pressure of a leopard gecko. It's going to facilitate us to use less media and still maintain a very rigid surface. So here we have a balloon that we're using. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we will be using them. This is one of the spots we decided to use it because we're going to create a hide above the other one. What the balloon facilitates is a void in the actual clay substrate, and then when you're done, you go in and pop the balloon and then it just peels out. You can see here we've added a few different features since you guys last saw. We added just a little stone looking thing up front in the foreground. That will probably be used to build up the substrate a little bit for a plant or something. In the back right hand corner we put in a big log of cholla wood. Bree's leopard gecko is quite arboreal in the sense that it loves to climb, and she's going to use that as a bridge to get all the way across and up the whole background. I can't wait to see her use this tank as it was designed to, and hopefully find other ways to use it that it wasn't designed to do. Alrighty, and here you have it, the final setup. This is the end for the, I guess, background scape and whatnot. This purple balloon here I'm going to be popping very soon so we can actually get the tank fully set up today. The whole point of this was to make as much usable space as possible. We basically made it so she can walk up the back, up top there, and then across onto here and all the way up onto the top of the rock. The water dish and things will be going on this little pedestal right here. You can see the 2 holes in the back, those are both hides. And then there's a third one, you can see the tip of the balloon right there. That will be another hide once it's all dry and everything in probably 3 or 4 days. One of the things that my girlfriend and I did was we sprinkled some of the dry substrate on it, just so it gave it some texture. You can see there it looks very nice and textured, and then in comparison you can see the like very clayey wet stuff. So that's just a tip that I would recommend doing. Just a tip for you guys if you want it to look more like ours. You're building your own background and it doesn't look quite like ours. That's what we ended up doing at the very end, just to give it the really nice sandpaper looking texture. So you guys have seen
might be a little
okay. Alright, so you guys have seen the finished product here. We're not going to be doing any other work, or at least drastic work, to this tank. Of course, we're going to be popping the balloons and whatnot, but we decided we're going to wait a little while for that, just so it dries fully, so we're not actually going to, you know, ruin our masterpiece here. But now it's time to move on from the tank build and move towards what's going in it. For our substrate, we're going to be using the Arcadia Earth Mix Arid. This is one of the best substrates that I've ever encountered. I really love it for my leopard gecko. I know there's a bunch of people out there that have been using it for theirs as well. I know it works for reptiles like the bearded dragons. You can do tortoises, uromastics, any other that you can think of. Awesome, okay. Thanks for audience participation. This is a well-rounded universal substrate for all arid species. Alright guys, so we've actually finished off the build. Everything's done now, the substrate's in. Bree and I went in and planted the 2 plants that we had. You can see the big green one in the front is a jade plant, and then the one off to the left-hand side is a hen and chicks. I'd love to hear what you guys think of the tank in the comment section down below.
Hey guys, it's Bree from Bree's Exotics. I know Mike was supposed to finish this video off, but unfortunately he did actually have to go before all of the clay dried. So I just wanted to update you guys on how the tank is doing so far. Everything has dried. It did take a few days for everything to dry completely, especially the balloon hide in that back corner. That definitely took a long time to dry. If any of you guys are using this stuff and are finding it's not drying as well as you'd hope, I'd recommend, you know, setting a fan on the enclosure to help circulate some air through there. You definitely don't want to dry it with a heat lamp or anything like that, because it will just cause it to dry way too fast and cause it to crack. Another thing I did was I actually went ahead and added a fake succulent to that back corner there to kind of match that corner. And I did add a small halogen dome above the tank. Just heats it up just a little bit more, because I did find what I had for the heat mat just wasn't heating up the ambient temperature enough. I would actually be using a deep heat projector, but unfortunately that's going to have to wait a little bit as I don't actually have enough space in my rack. I also went ahead and added some Earth Pro A into her calcium dish. Leopard geckos do like to regulate their own calcium intake, so I like to provide some calcium in their tank for them. This one that I provided is without D3 because I do have a UVB lamp up there, and you normally don't want to provide D3 in the enclosure just in case they over supplement themselves. That's how the enclosure is doing so far. I'm definitely going to add another plant in that back corner there just to kind of finish it off, but I really like the way it turned out. So now that everything is dry and the tank is all ready, all the temperature and humidity holds up, I'm now going to actually add my leopard gecko. That's the part you've all been waiting for. If you guys don't follow me on social media, you won't really know who this is, but this is Clementine, and she's my Tremper albino leopard gecko. And she's the one who's going to be living in this enclosure. Unfortunately, she does get stressed out in large spaces, so I did have to go with an 18 cube as opposed to the 24, which I normally would recommend for a leopard gecko. I do like to make them as nice as possible so that I don't feel like I'm keeping her in too cramped of a space. She also really likes to climb, so she's going to utilize all of this enclosure. So let's put her in and see what she thinks. There is a little cave down there that's you can hardly see it. It's very hidden in the rocks, and it looks like she's chosen to go in there. She is an albino, however, the bright lights tend to not bother her as much as I've noticed other albino geckos. So for those of you who are worried about the lights bothering her, she doesn't actually mind them too much, and she'll be out later. She's just exploring. She's really going to enjoy this, that's for sure. I can't wait to see her climbing on all the branches. If you guys follow me on social media, I'll keep you guys updated there, and you'll be able to see more footage of her exploring.
And with that being said, I think that's gonna wrap up the video. We don't really have anything else to add. I wanna thank you guys all very much for watching. I wanna thank Exo Terra for sending me some product and letting me do this review for you guys. If you want a little bit more elaborate detail, definitely drop a comment down below and I will reply to every single one of them for you guys. I mentioned sticking around to the very end because there is a giveaway in this video. Hagen and Exo Terra was kind enough to support the channel and send this over to me. They also extended the opportunity for a giveaway. So for this giveaway, we're going to be giving out one voucher for a 20-pound bag of the Exo Terra Stone Desert of any color. So you can pick the Outback Red, the Baharia Black, as well as the Sonoran Ochre, which you see in front of you. Now to enter the giveaway, you have to obviously have watched the entire video, made it to the end. But first and foremost, you have to be Canadian. I know all of you American followers will probably get a little bit butthurt, but you know what? This is a Canadian special this time. Maybe if it goes well, we'll end up doing an American one as well. But for this time, it's Canadians only. So for my Canadian homies that are still watching this, all you have to do is leave a comment down below saying something about the tank, using your Instagram username, as well as comment what you think of the tank. Do you like the Exo Terra Stone Desert? Is there anything you might have changed about the build that we might be able to implement? Just your general thoughts on the tank itself. I would love to hear it. I'm sure Bree would love to read the comments too. The final thing that you have to do is follow me on Instagram. So if you aren't already following me on Instagram, the link is down below in the description. Just click the show more button down below and you guys will be able to go check that out. My final thoughts on the Exo Terra Stone Desert Clay substrate is that it's awesome. My girlfriend loves it, I love it. There is another product on the market that has a really strong odor to it, and one of the first things we notice is this stuff doesn't smell at all. This is all natural, it's very easy to work with. Of course, as you saw throughout the build, I definitely wear gloves, otherwise, I mean, if you like to play in clay, go for it, but I would strongly recommend gloves. And overall, it molded really well. I'm super excited about this product. I'll definitely be recommending it to my friends and anybody else that wants to set up a custom background for their arid-loving species. This stuff is perfect. I also really like the fact that it comes in the 3 different colors. They all look awesome and they all are gonna work the exact same. Now that we've done the giveaway, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you click that like button. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, or, you know, want to enter the giveaway, leave it in the comment section down below. I reply to every comment, so if you guys have questions about the substrate itself, let me know. If you want more reptile content like this, make sure to click that subscribe button down below and play Ding Dong Ditch with the doorbell next to it. That way you get notified every single time I post a video. If you guys like the build, make sure you let me know in the comments as well, because I plan to do a lot more. Bree has a lot of fun with it, so when I move out here, there will be a lot of builds coming your way. So with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll catch you in the next one. Later.